GM everyone, and welcome to the Sages Lab Career Program 2025. My name is Onya Obazi, and I'm thrilled to be your host for this powerful day one. We are live and counting down into an incredible session. So if you're just joining us, you are right in time. This is the launch pad. For the next few hours, we are dismantling borders and building global careers in Web3 and data. While we wait for before we start, right, you can do well to just do two things for me as you are here. Drop your location in the chat. Let's see the global force we have in this room. So where you are streaming from, you can just type it in the chat section. Okay. Also, you can as well use the hashtag career acceleration 2025 and hashtag day one on your X right now and tell us what you'd love to know about the session, like what you would love to gain from this session. So our community managers are here to welcome you as well in the comment section. So get ready and we'll be beginning in about a moment. Okay, I can't see the energy in the comment section. You can tell us where you're streaming from in the comment section. You can as well go to your socials and use the hashtag career acceleration 2025 and hashtag day one on X. Of course, don't fail to tag us at Sages Lab and let us know what you would love to gain from tonight's session. Amazing. I can see persons from Lagos, Nigeria, Kampala, Uganda, India. You're welcome, guys. Benin City, Atlanta, Georgia. Wonderful. So we are a global community. Okay, Kigali, Rwanda. Nice one. You're all welcome. So, welcome formally to the one of the Stages Lab Career Program 2025. Our theme for the next 3 days is not just a phrase, it's a mandate. Career acceleration in Web3, building, showcasing, and winning in the global market. Okay, so the Sages Lab Career Program is a transformative 3-day virtual summit designed to equip aspiring Web3 and data professionals with the strategy, portfolio skills, and negotiation tactics needed to launch and accelerate their global careers. Once again, you are welcome. If you're here, you're in the right place. Today, we focus on launching that global career. We are here to move you from where you are to where the opportunities are, regardless of geography. To ignite this conversation, we have assembled not just speakers, but pioneers. Allow me to introduce our powerhouses for today. Of course, before I do that, I would like to say that for the day one, our theme is launching a global tech career. Moving forward, first, we are honored to host Ms. Jennifer Obem, former protocol research analyst at Messari. She will deliver our keynote on from local to global positioning yourself for remote opportunity. Immediately following her session, we move into a dynamic panel discussion titled How I Landed My Global Role, featuring first-hand stories from professionals in their fields, and this panel session would be expertly moderated by the founder of Sages Labs himself. This is your blueprint session. Pay close attention, have your notepad ready, digital or physical, any one of your choice, because actionable insights start now. So, Introducing our speaker for today, Ms. JenniferOvat Obem, protocol researcher. JenniferOvat Obem is a crypto asset and protocol researcher with over 5 years of experience across fintech and digital asset markets. She began her career in corporate finance at a Lagos-based fintech startup before transitioning fully into crypto research. Most recently, she served as a senior research analyst at Messari, a leading New York-based digital asset research firm, where she delivered institutional grade due diligence and insights on crypto assets, protocol, and blockchain networks for both institutional and retail stakeholders. Beyond protocol research, Jennifer is exploring agri-tech solutions aimed at strengthening food security in developing countries. So, Ms. Jennifer needs no lengthy introduction. Her work speaks for her. So, without further ado, let's give her a virtual round of applause. I want to see a virtual round of applause in the comment section, guys. Let's encourage Miss Jennifer as she takes over the floor. Please, Miss Jennifer, the floor is yours. It's an absolute privilege to have you with us tonight.
Thanks, Sonye. Sorry, I got your name wrong. Could you please pronounce your name? I'd like to get it right instead. Onyo,
Okay,
Onyobazi.
my name is Oni.
Oh, so I
Oni.
can call you Onyi.
Yes, ma.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Onyi, for the seamless
Yes, ma.
introduction. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Onyi. Please don't call me Ma, call me Jennifer. So yeah, thank you for the seamless introduction. It's my utmost pleasure to be here with everyone in the Sages Lab community. Thank you to the founder of Sages Labs for the opportunity to keynote the beginning of this career acceleration program. And I hope by the end of this program, and starting from beginning from the end of my speech to the end of this program, I hope participants are equipped, solely equipped to go into the remote job market and stand out as globally competitive data analyst, on-chain data analyst, or professional data analyst for the Web3 space. So I hope we achieve that goal at the end of this program. And a big kudos and well done to the founder once again for putting this together. And so when I got the team for the acceleration program, which was from local to global, positioning yourself for global remote opportunities, I was like, of course, it had to be a team that would definitely rhyme with everything happening in the global tech space today. So it's not just Web3 at the end of the day. There's been an acceleration in the global remote work culture across different borders over the past 5 years, although we have seen a slow in that pace over the past year. So I think it's interesting that the initial ways we may have known to position ourselves for these opportunities have also evolved as the market has become not only more expanded or extended to more emerging countries like countries in Africa like Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya. We are also seeing more competition coming. So it just makes a lot of sense that in the light of that competition, there's been an evolution in how people are hired for these roles, how people prepare themselves and are equipped to be globally competitive um, uh, uh, workers in the space or earners or professionals in Web3. And so we're going to start by analyzing how the trend has evolved over the past 5 years and how we can position ourselves in the coming 5 years. So it's going to be a high level overview um, analysis of what's changed over time and what we need to do to stay competitive. And I hope we're able to pick one or two tips on how to remain competitive, even as the trend continues to evolve over time. And so we're going to start from the most recent data points we have, which is the 2025 hiring landscape. Forgive me for the noise in the background. There's construction going on around my background. So, like we all know, even in Web3, where we have a more inclusive job community, right? The remote first culture has ameliorated over the past 5 years from there not being, especially with how tight and stifled the government policies around hiring in Web3 was in earlier 2019, 2020. I think we can all agree at the end of 2025 that we have all seen how a lot of regulatory policies from the US specifically has opened up the markets to more friendlier hiring policies, even in the US and across other Western countries like the UK, Canada, and even in Africa. So while back then in 2020, 2021, it was very easy for someone who is in Nigeria, even if you just knew the basic concepts of Web3, to get a job into this space. We have also seen over time that it's become increasingly difficult to get easy jobs based on basic, abstract, conceptual knowledge. You have to become more technical and show the world how competitive you can be in your technical skills for you to stand out on a global stage now. So that's one of the trends we've seen over the past 5 years. So while we have seen a growth in remote job opportunities, even in the Web3 space, and then, of course, with the boom of AI over the past 5 years, from the 2025 data points I saw recently from the Web3 intelligence report that was released in 2025 from Bondex, we have also seen a 15% year over year decline in global remote job opportunities. But it's under an overarching theme, which is the fact that the remote only era has only matured into a more remote competent era. Why? The market is more saturated. While it was easy for us back then in 2020, 2021, I got hired by Messari in 2021. And I remember shortly after I was hired in early 2022, they stopped hiring entirely from Africa. And so that's because we started seeing a lot of regulatory friendly policies allowing companies, Web3 companies, to hire from the US. And so because it was easier for them to hire from the US, the job pool became more expanded, and that equated to what in return? It equated to a more saturated market, to more competition in the market, more skills in the market, more hands in the market. So while in those days, only very few people who knew basic knowledge could get in, right now it's become more difficult, right? For especially with the gifts of educative communities or educational communities like the Sages Labs, we're seeing more talents come into the space, right? Across community management, Discord and community tools, moderators, technical talents like blockchain software developers, full stack developers, even security researchers, protocol researchers, on-chain data analysts. We've seen a flood of talents, especially from the emerging markets, that's Nigeria, Africa, come into the space, and it's made the pool very competitive. So it's no longer the remote only era. We're now in the remote competent era. You have to be competent. You have to be a globally competitive professional if you have to stand one in one when it comes to job opportunities on a global scale with those who are in the US or in Canada or in UK. Another very interesting data point I found while studying about the recent trends in 2025 the hiring landscape in Web3 and AI was the fact that, of course, it's an interesting trend, but I'm not sure I wouldn't call it a new data point. It's a data point we all know that is gospel, right? That if you're lucky enough to get hired as an African or an analyst in Web3 or a skilled hire in any of the hiring fields, the marketable fields in Web3 from Africa, anywhere in Africa or other emerging countries, you're always definitely likely to earn 3x above the local earnings rate, right? So I think it's interesting that despite the fact that we have seen at least a 50% year over year decrease in globally remote jobs over the past year. I think it's also interesting to know that, or it's also comforting to know that while you're based in Africa, if you're opportune to get any of these opportunities, you would most likely earn at least 3x plus higher, than your local counterpart. So we still have that edge, right? We still have that edge. But then another reason why I think there's been a 50% year-over-year decrease in globally remote jobs in Web3, and I think in most global tech sectors as well, is because, like I said earlier, there's a more regulatory friendly environment to support the hiring of talents outside, within the US rather, and in other Western countries, right? And so because there's more regulatory friendly environments for that kind of hiring, a lot of top Web3 companies I've seen so far would rather hire geographically remote talent in places like the US, the Canada, in Western time zone. It's something I've also suffered and experienced as well, because I got to a point in my career where I knew it was imperative for me to move to the western part of the world if I wanted to find more opportunities that would pay me my worth, despite being a top talent as a protocol researcher in the space. So those are the very interesting data points I've seen that I felt it would be great for us to highlight as we equip ourselves, going forward for the changing trends. AI integration is now baseline. That's another very key data point I also want to touch on. Because even in Web3, professionals report significant productivity gains. So if you want to keep your competitive edge, even from this part of the world, you have to be a power AI user. I remember back then while I was at Messari, when we're building data pipelines for research reports, maybe you're building say a data schema for a particular blockchain network to produce a protocol research report, a commissioned report, right? It would usually take, say, as long as 1 week to build your the whole data back end that you'd be using to report on a quarterly basis on these networks or these projects you were managing. But what happened with the boom of AI in 2023, 2024, we were able to cut down the data modeling time frame from weeks to a few hours, right? So you can imagine building the data schema for, say, um, a robust blockchain like Solana that has at least it has decent network activity. Imagine building the schema for it for, like, say, um, a week. It'll take you a week to build it, and imagine that being cut down to a few days, right? So the productivity was huge, right? So I would I would say it eventually led to loss of jobs, because at the end of the day, a lot of hires, a lot of colleagues who were probably managing specific manual parts of the product production, the research production workflow, had to be laid off when AI could simply fill in those functions. So for you to stay competitive in this space, not just in Web3, but in the global tech industry, it is imperative for you to become an AI power user. You don't have to be an AI researcher. You don't have to have the basic, should I say, it's not really basic, but I'd say the technical knowledge or technical know-how, right, to build the formula tech for AI. You don't need that whatsoever. What you need is to make sure you know how to use AI well. Make sure you're very familiar with the LLM tools. Like, you use it, you make sure you use it every day, like put in your reps every single day. You can use it to cut down the amount of times you produce reports. By the time you finish building your Dune dashboards, and then you want to pull out data from your Dune dashboards to build your research reports or to publish your research reports, you might as well use AI to build research report templates that would help you cut down that time you would have spent building it from scratch, right? So think productivity, think AI asynchronous autonomy, right? That's how you scale as a top talent in this century. That's how you scale as a top talent even in Web3. So I think it's a very interesting data point to know as well. So how do we now stand out in remote first roles, especially in 2025 that has come to an end and beyond? We go back to what we already know. We go back to gospel, but we make it even better, with the knowledge we already have about how competitive the market is. Build in public. Build in public is gospel for everyone. We all know if you have to be seen today, especially with how competitive the market is, it's very important you build in public. And build in public translates to building your public June dashboards and writing about your data points, writing about the results and the insights you have gathered from the data you put on June on Twitter, writing a few threads, writing a full-fledged article, writing articles on Mirror XYZ, native Web3 social distribution platforms, sharing your opinions, on what's going on there, and staying consistent at it, building your reps every day, staying consistent at it, and making sure you're building your opinion bank in this space. For example, I think one of the very hot topics in the Web3 space that I think data analysts, on-chain data analysts can actually take advantage of is the whole DAO governance friction saga happening with Aave, where we're seeing a conflict of interest between Aave Labs, that's the execution team of the Aave protocol, and then the Aave DAO community itself. So being at the forefront of these hot topics in Web3, writing about your own personal opinions after studying about what's going on and forming your own opinion, your independent opinion, sharing your own insights from what you've been able to gather from what's happening is how you stay at the top of people's minds in the industry. If you want to build your portfolio as an authority in this space and you want to stay competitive compared to um, other applicants in the pool, verifiable proof of work remains a differentiating edge. Building that Dune dashboards. I've seen fantastic Dune dashboards come out from the analytics sage communities that have made me go back and I'm like, oh wow, this data point is actually very interesting. And then I go back to read about those protocols from that data. I think I saw a very random tweet last week, or I think it was 2 weeks ago, where people said, where someone random, can't really recall the handle, said, um, data based, or yeah, on-chain data based tweets or contents don't really do so well. I don't know how true it is, right? But I think it's still not an excuse really for one not to stay competitive, and consistent and up to date, in posting about these insights. Because then at the end of the day, people who are still data literate in this space, people who find these data points very interesting, people who really matter will always read them, right? We already know majority of those who are in this space, especially retail, are not really so technically sound per se or knowledge sound. They're more from they're more from a speculative point of view than a knowledge-based point of view. But rest assured that with the skew of things happening, or with the skew of the dynamics of where we're seeing attention move to from retail to institutions, it's very likely that while you may not see so much traction while publishing your insights on Twitter or on Mirror XYZ or Farcaster, rest assured people who really matter, the institutions that matter, will definitely see your insights. So the most important thing is publishing your opinions regardless of whether they see traction online or not. I mean, it's better someone from BlackRock, who is managing BlackRock's on-chain treasury, sees your tweets than 100 retail speculators who don't even understand jack of what you've published seeing your tweets, right? So it's quality over quantity at the end of the day. So what am I saying at the end of the day? It's important for you to still go ahead and build in public, still publish your ideas and make it consistent over time so that when people think about, say, a particular protocol or a network, or a particular concept in the space that's gaining traction, you're one of the first thought thinkers that come to mind, right? So that's how you build in the space. That's how you build authority, by making sure you share your opinions consistently over time. Learn in public. So while you're building in public by publishing your thoughts, your thought patterns, we already know a follow-up way of building in public is learning in public. So as you're learning, you're building, right? So you're not just keeping all that knowledge to yourself at the end of the day. Build those Dune dashboards, learn new ways of modifying your Dune dashboards, right? Or building new projects, learn new ways and show us how you built those things, right? Make it public. That's how you build authority or mind space in people's heads about particular topics in this space. Contribute to active Web3 communities. Like I say, all these points are basically gospel. At this point, I'd assume we all know it, but for the benefit of those who don't know, right, these are like basic gospel principles you have to keep tabs on if you want to stay competitive in the space as an on-chain data analyst or any other hire or resource in the space. There are very applicable concepts you can apply across different skill sets in the space. So just ensure you build in public, you learn in public, you contribute to active Web3 communities in different capacities you feel as needed, as a moderator or a governance DAO advocate, or delegate, any ways that give you opportunities or give you intersectional opportunities to build, to learn, and to contribute. Where you find that subset where you can do all three is probably the best place for you to grow and become more competitive in this space. So when you see those opportunities, ensure you take advantage of them. Explore different niches and then you specialize. If you're someone who's not really sure if on-chain data analysis is what you want to do, you may as well explore other roles in the space. There are roles that have actually exploded over the past few years, even while we have seen a decline in remote global roles. I mean roles like sales and business development. In Messari, for example, I saw how a single research analyst, right, a was able to build a sales and business development unit from scratch to about 20 million plus dollars in revenue, right? And that space has ameliorated, it has expanded over time. Because now at the end of the day, I've also seen over time that some of the business development reps that were in that space, some of them have gone on to lead biz dev initiatives in other big protocols or networks or Web3 related organizations. So what am I saying? You may not necessarily have to limit your skill set to on-chain data analyst at the end of the day. You can always explore other areas from sales business development rather, to Discord moderation, community development, even project and program management, managing funding programs in Web3 across different networks. It's a skill. If you're someone who is an asynchronous self-master, you have that self-mastery where you're very autonomous and you can get things done very well and very fast. You can have that edge of becoming a program manager where you manage different project funding distributions, hackathon funding distributions in Web3. So explore. And once you've explored and you've realized, okay, I've built depth in a particular area and I think I want to build further depth in it, specialize, become an authority, build the skill in public, meet or look for or online, search online, look for other people who are interested in building authority in that space, maybe sales and business development or on-chain data analysis, like the analytics stage community, for example. Belong to a community so that you can always keep at pace with what's required to stay competitive, or the recent change in trends, hiring trends, consulting trends, freelance gigs. That's how you remain a globally competitive resource in the space, regardless of your skill. Incorporate AI. With the data points we have discussed earlier, it's very imperative at this point in time that we integrate AI in everything we do, from writing, while you try your best to keep your original writing voice and style. It's also important for you to incorporate AI because that's where you get your competitive edge. You're competing with people who use AI, who have built research agents, who have built, you know, even on-chain DeFi operation agents, people who have built crazy stuff to gain that productivity edge, because that productivity edge becomes a competitive edge when you're competing for the same opportunity in the global job market as a remote resource, right? So make sure you're looking for new ways to incorporate AI into your research workflow as an on-chain data analyst, or your workflow as a biz dev, or your workflow as a Discord mode, whatever it is you're doing in this space to remain or to sustain your competitive edge. It's very important for you to make sure you continue improving your skill as an AI power user. Hone your soft skills. Underrated soft skills like self-management, self-mastery, and proactiveness will keep you at the top competition. It's crazy because, especially in a space like ours that's still very unstructured, we may not really see the need for soft skills. I mean, soft skills like networking in the space, reaching out to people, sharing your own views, and extending value. If there's someone in this space I know I really revere for doing that so excellently well, is Chris Nwobodo, my fellow Messari community analyst then. I remember he most recently, I think it was a year or 2 years ago, he used to contribute to a community that was formed by, I think, Andrew Hong. I can't remember his name, but he's now the head of Herd, an AI on-chain data um, retrieval tool, right? I saw Chris contribute and give value over and over again to that community. So I think it's a beautiful way for you to be at the top of minds of other authorities in the space, so that if there are other opportunities that they probably can't take advantage of, they would always have you to refer, because they know your capacity. You have provided value for them, even though it's free sometimes, right? But you have provided value for them and they can vouch for your skills. Okay, so work on your networking skills. Make sure you're curious, hungry, and you continue learning over and over again, especially in a space like ours that is fast paced. It is imperative for you to ensure that you're always learning, like you're always keeping abreast of the hottest new trend, and how you can find, or your neck deep in the weeds, finding the next very interesting data points that can gain significant interest traction on Twitter, right? So it's very imperative for you to be someone who is relentlessly curious and hungry. That's how you stay competitive in this space. And I think it's a soft skill that is highly underrated. I've seen it time and time again as an analyst in this space, especially while working with outrageously smart people, a global distribution of very smart people like Messari, that what really gave some people edges over the other, even in a company setting, was the fact that some people were just relentlessly hungry, curious, and their curiosity and hunger fueled their diligence at work. It fueled their capacity to even handle more new tasks and opportunities. I remember there were so many times when the former CEO of Messari then will just maybe throw, maybe there's a trending new topic on Twitter about a particular protocol, and then he'll just throw it on the general research group and be like, who is up to handle this challenge? And then you see that people who, some of them, it's not as if they have the bandwidth, but it's the hunger, it's the drive, it's the curiosity, that's driving them to be better. And in the process of being better, you realize you're climbing the ladder to the top 1% of the 1% of competition in this space, right? So make sure you're always relentlessly curious. You really can't afford to slack or lose interest or become complacent and stop learning. Once you do that, you lose your edge, you lose your competitive edge. So stay curious, stay hungry, network in the space with as many people as you can who have similar interests as you, or have built their own progressive authority in the space as well. So I also wanted to share my career story, but then I realized I've also shared it in pockets and bits throughout my conversation so far. But then like my bio already stated, I joined Messari from a non-traditional Web3 background, a corporate finance um, firm in Lagos, Nigeria. And then I was fortunate enough to join Messari on the Messari diligence team. But then I think the part of my career story I really want to point out is how, while I started on a diligence team, I want to point out the fact that over time, I was able to evolve into other roles that weren't necessarily the roles I was hired for. So, especially with a space as highly evolving as ours, it's very important that you're willing to morph into a new role, even if it needs you to build a more technical skill, like maybe learning more of SQL Server, learning more of Python, learning more of a technical skill, whatever you need or whatever it'll take for you to become a better version of a competition in the space. It's always very imperative for you to take on that challenge and learn those skills, regardless of how painful they are, right? So I started on the diligence team, which was traditionally the back end facing research office at Messari. We're a team of six. I was part of the founding research team. We're writing juggling reports as much as, you know, 10 reports per week, sometimes up to 30 reports per month, due diligence reports on several assets. By the time I had left Messari, I was the highest producing due diligence research analyst at Messari, producing over 1,400 reports in 3 years. So it was a lot of work, but I learned from my mistake during my first year that I was so buried in trying to, in output. I was so buried in producing as many as possible that I kind of neglected building the initial skills I needed to scale to other research teams. And so while I eventually scaled to other research teams from the back end research team, I was able to build other skills that enabled me to interpret data, to model data schemas, to produce research reports. And then from there, I moved from the back end research office to the protocol services research team, which enabled me or afforded me the opportunity to now explore more interesting functions like customer relationship management, speaking with protocol teams, liaising with them, managing relationships with them, even closing commissioned research reports from protocols and different networks as well. You know, trying to close commissioned research report opportunities and then being the go-to analyst for those protocols or networks, right? So I evolved over time from just being a back-end research analyst, juggling reports, due diligence reports for exchanges, to doing more technical stuff, and not just only doing more technical stuff that required me to build data schema, manage data reports on a quarterly basis for networks, but also manage relationships. It gave me a front end view to also flex my sales, customer relationship management skills, as my business development skills as well. So what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, it's very imperative for you to make sure you're like a chameleon in the literal sense of the word, for you to scale in any role you find yourself in Web3, or even in tech in general, or even any whichever globally remote role, right? To be a 1% of 1%. I have known over time that what the 1% of 1% do is they are ready to do any task it takes, no matter how dirty it looks, right? So long as they find it as an opportunity to learn, or to build the mental fortitude to take on more opportunities or tasks as well that make them more competitive or make them the go-to persons. So in summary, it's another thing I've also seen in most of my colleagues who have gone on to do very great things in Messari and outside Messari. You have to stay relentlessly hungry and willing to morph in your role. I noticed some of the things I noticed about some local talent I got to work with on some um I'd say personal projects, where some people would say things like, "Oh, this is not what I was hired for." "Oh, I don't know how to do this." Like, they make excuses. But one thing I'm grateful for that I've learned while working at Messari is the fact that if you want to be the 1% of the 1%, even in the Web3 space, as an on-chain data analyst, as a consultant, or even as a full-time employee, you have to be someone who is ready to do any work, regardless of how dirty it is, right? You have to be someone who's ready to do any work. You have to be someone who's ready to evolve. If your job would require you to be more technical to deliver, right? You have to be, because at the end of the day, it looks like the companies of your client, if you're a consultant, if you're a research consultant or a data consultant, for example, it looks like your client is exploiting you in some way, in quotes, right? For you to actually be providing more services for them outside of your scope of duty or outside of your contractual obligations. But if you look at it critically, at the end of the day, you stand a chance of getting the greater end of the bargain. Why? Because you're coming out, especially if it's an opportunity you're not so familiar with, you're coming out at the end of the day to be more skilled, right? You're coming out having had knowledge or garnered knowledge about that sector or about that programming language or about that analytical tool, right? So it makes you a better competitor. It makes you a more refined competitor in the global remote market. Built from day one with the goal of competing global. I would say this is definitely the the synopsis and the summary of everything I've come to emphasize today, even as you go on this career acceleration program. Built from day one with the goal of competing globally. And what does that take? It takes you being relentlessly hungry, curious, diligent, um, becoming a networking maestro, becoming a community advocate, that you're ready to join communities, even if you have to form communities, if you've not found people who are in that community, you're ready to join communities. And even when you're in these communities, you're ready to contribute to these communities as well. And so I'll close by saying the internet is a great equalizer. Your location is a choice. To some of us, it's a choice, but then to some of us, it's not a choice, right? I mean, if you're born in Nigeria and it's never a choice, I would say, because the odds are stacked against you from day one, right? But then at the end of the day, regardless of your location, your skill is a currency, and it's your responsibility to continue to refine your skill over and over again, regardless of what path you choose in the space. It's your responsibility to refine your skill over and over again. Stay up to date, stay relentlessly curious, and always show up ready to give in 110%. That's how you become the top 1% of the 1% in whatever market you find yourself, even in Web3. So thank you for coming to my small talk. I hope you've been able to learn a thing or two from my experience. And I hope you've picked a thing or two on how you can stay globally competitive, even as we were about getting into the next half of the decade. Thank you. So I'm open to any questions you have. Um, Whatever it is you've been contemplating on and you need further clarifications, feel free to shoot me questions. I'm up for it. So over to you, Oyi.
Okay, thank you so much, Jennifer, for that. I mean, that was an amazing session. That was not just a talk, that was like a master class, okay, in strategic positioning. That was a master class in strategic positioning. So we'll be using 5 minutes to answer any questions that you may have for Miss Jennifer. So, okay. If you have any questions for Miss Jennifer, you feel free to ask your questions. I will be looking out in the comment section for any questions. Miss Jennifer, just a quick one from me personally.
So
During the course of your journey, right, was there like any stumbling block you must have had, maybe like in terms of emotionally, physically, during your career?
thank you for that question, Oyi. Absolutely, there were a lot of challenges within the way, but across the way, or along the way rather. But if there were any challenges, I would probably highlight. I think it would be the core challenge of working from Nigeria. As a globally remote talent, you get to a point where you become incredibly good, and then you get inbound opportunities from maybe other firms, but then you get to a point where you're restricted by location. you're limited in some way by the opportunities you have access to. You no longer have asymmetric opportunities when you become incredibly good, and then there's some form of imaginary ceiling per se on how far you can go from Nigeria or from an emerging country. And so there was a point in my career where it just felt like I was having a lot of inbound requests, but most of those requests passed me by because they were location dependent. They required me to relocate, or they were not ready to offer, say, relocation assistance, especially within the Web3 community, or they were no longer open to hiring from Africa or from Nigeria, right? So I think it's a common problem that's being faced in the global tech industry where you're working remotely and after a while there's just an imaginary ceiling on how far you can go. But I think it's still exacerbated in the Web3 space as well, where you get to a point where the Web3 pool is already incredibly small, especially when you're working from this part of the world. And so picture 2, 3 years down your career and you're still in Nigeria. That's suicidal, really, because there's going to be an imaginary limit to how far you can go, even the opportunities you can take. You get to a point where you're no longer earning the same as you would your colleagues who are on the same level, right, with you. And then it becomes imperative for you to relocate or change your location, become more geographically distributed in other areas where there are more asymmetric opportunities, like in the US or in Canada or in the UK. So I would say that's one very standout challenge I faced when I kind of hit my 3 year mark, you know, um, at Messari. So if I were to do it all over again, I would plan, like I said, I would plan my global way, my global strategy from the very beginning. Now I have that knowledge. What would that mean? It means I'd probably start applying for things like maybe the Global Talent Visa, which would take me, say, to the UK or the one in the US, start positioning myself for that. So while I'm working remotely for the Web3 company and it's helping me to stack my earnings, I'm also building a portfolio that would enable me to move to other areas where I can find better opportunities that would even pay me better than working from Nigeria. So I would say if you're starting your career from fresh right now, a good strategy for building with a global mindset, at the back of your mind from start would be ensuring you're building a personal or a public portfolio that should open you up to other opportunities outside Nigeria and are not just limited to full employment only. Because, like I said, employment opportunities in the Web3 space, employment opportunities that offer relocation in the global tech remote industry is very few. And it's even more limited in the Web3 space. So build with a global view, from the very get-go, from the very beginning. Have a more global strategy from the very beginning so that once those anticipated roadblocks come 2, 3, 4 years down the line, you're not just limited to employment or employer relocation opportunities. You have your own mobilization strategy to move to other countries as well that would expose you to better opportunities when you become, say, a more specialist resource in your space or a more specialist hire in your field.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that amazing response, Ma. So we have a few comments,
Mhm.
questions rather, in the comment section
Okay.
from from this person. The first comment we have is first question is, where do you see on-chain data analysis in the next few years? Will it gain more adoption or there'll be a shift to something else?
While I can't, interesting and solid question right there. While I can't accurately predict, what on-chain data analysis will look like in the next few years, I'll definitely say the edge today remains in your ability to follow the latest trend when it comes to AI project productivity for on-chain data analysis. I have seen firsthand what staying up to date with AI productivity tools that heavily impact the workflow of data analysis can do. I've seen how it has reduced, the whole data data analysis or data wrangling process from a few days to weeks. And that has made me realize that the edge for anyone who remains in this space is your ability to make sure you're a pretty good AI user when it comes to on-chain data analysis. So I know there are skills, there are tools right now in this space that are solely focused on, AI productivity, or AI optimization services when it comes to extracting data on chain. I would say make sure you're someone who, while you're building your doing dashboards and you're becoming very good at the basics, make sure you're someone who also is at at the very least very aware of all the new AI workflow hacks around on-chain data analysis, because they're there, right? I've seen a lot of them spring up over the last year. So if you want to stay competitive in this space, if you want to be the go-to analyst in this space, because at the end of the day, what AI does is it drives up productivity, and a relational, or should I say a correlational factor to AI productivity would definitely be speed. So build the soft skill of speed by making sure you're very good in your use of AI productivity tools that relates to on-chain data. Make sure you're very good at it. Once you're at the top of that, I'm very sure you'd definitely be at among the top 1% really when it comes to on-chain data analysis. While you're really good at the basics, make sure you're finding new ways to cut out any extra manual grunt task in the pipeline that can easily be taken care of by AI. That's how you scale, and that's how you remain competitive, on the global stage.
Thank you so much, Ms. Jennifer, for that. I hope she has been able to answer your question to
Hope so.
the audience who asked that. Okay, so the next question we have is how one how does one build online that meets the standard of like the global space? Should one build as a brand or should one build as a single entity? That's like as an individual, I
Thank
presume.
you, Digital Farmer. This looks like another very interesting question, although I think I'm a bit confused on why you chose to create a dichotomy, like divide the brand from single entity. Because in my mind, it looks like they're both the same thing. Because if you're building like a brand is also a single entity. Or is there a different interpretation of this question that I may have missed? I'd be I'd be happy if I could get additional context, on what you meant when you kind of like separated a brand from a single entity. Because if you're building as a brand, I would assume every individual on the internet who has a career-based portfolio is a brand. Your personal brand is your brand. And every brand is a single entity. That's how I see it. Except there's probably additional context that needs to make this question more more understandable. I'd appreciate having that context. That should help me interpret this better. So, Digital Farmer, if you can produce additional context, I think it would help us, get to the end of this question. Can we get additional context? Hello?
Okay, so while that is being done, I believe we can take on the next question. So
Okay.
the next question and possibly the last one that we'll be taking for this session is what is your greatest challenge during job hunting, ma?
Getting a job. My greatest challenge during job hunting is definitely getting a job. Like I said, it's a very interesting statistic released by Bondex, the Web3 intelligence report I highlighted earlier, that globally remote jobs have actually decreased 50%, at least 50% year over year from last year, right? So I think we're now in a very saturated pool competing for the same opportunities. So the greatest challenge right now is the fact that there are so many hands in the pool, and then there are little opportunities. We're all fighting for the same piece of pie, all be the same. It's already very small. So yeah, I think that's definitely the greatest challenge, and that's why. But I think the good news is it's a surmountable challenge, right? Because now it's a saturated pot, and then if you implement the strategies we have discussed, the basic gospel concept strategies we all know we have to um, to implement, plus additional creative strategies that make you the 1% of the 1% in your field. You know at the end of the day that you are at the top of that pyramid and you're considered first for job opportunities before others. So, like I said, it's the biggest challenge. The pie is really small, but then I think the opportunity remains that if you're able to make yourself the very best out there, I mean, you're still going to be at the top of the pyramid and you'll still have the opportunities regardless of how difficult it is eating from, the general pie. So that's a personal challenge really. The pot has become really small these days.
Thank you so much, Ma, for that
My
response.
pleasure.
So, and that's everything for our Q&A with Miss Jennifer. Please, guys, give another round of applause to Miss Jennifer for her wonderful session.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you so much, Ma.
My pleasure.
Okay, so we will be moving on to the next session where we'll be having our panelist discussion, and the highlights of it is basically how I landed my global role, featuring professionals who have walked this path. First on the screen, we have the person of Mr. Christian. Mr. Christian is a blockchain consultant. He analyzes blockchain data to help protocols go beyond vanity metrics and build analytics that track user adoption, improve product quality, and increase protocol revenue. His work bridges the gap between raw blockchain data, investment research, and strategy business intelligence. By combining his background in crypto research and data analytics, he analyzes on chain behavior to uncover what users are actually doing, then connects the dots to understand why. These insights empower protocols to refine their products and investors to make smarter data informed decisions. Our next panelist is person of Mr. Joshua Nwachukwu. He is a full stack data developer and engineer. Mr. Joshua is a blockchain data analyst and full stack data engineer who specializes in building automated analytics systems, machine learning models, and dashboards that make on chain activity easy to understand. His work with SQL, Python, Dune, Fast API, React, and Next.js to create tools that deliver clear insights for ecosystems, gaming projects, and DeFi teams. He built several end-to-end products used by real teams, including full ecosystem dashboards, ML-powered prediction systems, and automated data pipelines. His work has been featured by Dune and recognized by top builders across Web3. He enjoys solving complex data problems and turning raw blockchain data into something useful and actionable. Our next panelist for today is person of Mr. Joel, a pharmacist who has somehow transitioned into a DeFi analyst within the lending and borrowing sector, and he's currently serve as a data contributor for Moonwell Protocol and also a super delegate for the Moonwell governance body. Our last panelist for today is Mr. Tobechi Anoye. He is a blockchain data analyst with expertise in on-chain and off-chain analytics, SQL, Dune, blockchain technologies, contract interactions, and DeFi adoption. Experience in creating data-driven dashboards and reports that track user adoption, governance participation, token flows, and protocol health across leading protocols and blockchains. Guys, kindly welcome our panelists in the comment section with a standing ovation. Okay. Also, This panel discussion would be would be taken by our founder in person of Mr. Oluwatomise Olua. Sir, thank you so much for the opportunity and for your leadership. The floor is now yours.
All right. Good day, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are watching from. It's interesting to be the host of today's panel session. We have, you know, quite a good number of powerful people in our midst. Yeah, so I would appreciate if we can all put on our mics. Joel, you're welcome. I think this is the first time I'm putting a face to the name. Yeah, Christian, you're welcome. Joshua, you are welcome. Okay, so we are actually here to have a conversation around how you your story, right? You know, your story around job hunting, how you build your portfolios, how you landed your first gigs, and the likes. Yeah. But before I go to my first question, I want us to do a quick intro, you know, of ourselves, right? So yeah, so a quick intro of ourselves. Joe, you can go first, and then Christian follow. Then, uh, sorry, Tobeshi, I'm so sorry, I forgot. Sorry, you're welcome to. Okay, Joe. Yeah, 1 minute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Oh, perfect. So my name is Joel Obafemi. I'm a pharmacist, like our host said, and I think I've lived many lives when it comes to the online space. Started out as a copywriter, then um, moved into kind of niche down into that was during the lockdown, kind of niche down to email marketing, and I did that for a couple of years, and I think one of my very good friend had this idea for for us to become what he calls T-shaped marketers. To in other words, to kind of add to our stack of skills. So, and one of the skills we didn't have at the time because we had done all forms of marketing, digital marketing in particular, was data analysis. So, we got into data analysis, learning SQL and whatnot. This was the traditional space at the time. So I did that, built my portfolio, applied to jobs. I was on LinkedIn regularly, I posting my dashboard from Tableau, uh, particularly, and applied to several jobs. Tried to use it to probably get out of the country, but I realized that no one was going to give you visa for a junior role. So did that and eventually stumbled on Web3 data, particularly Flipside, and that was how my journey as an on data analyst began, and here I am today. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, awesome. All right, that's good to know. Okay, Christian.
Hi, GM guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Jim, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah. So I'm Christian and I'm a blockchain data consultant. I think this should be my 2+ year, 3 years, yeah, working in blockchain data. I actually started off my Web3 career just after, in my final year of university. So I studied economics, but then at the time, what they were teaching in economics wasn't really correlating with my expectations about global finance. So I decided to, explore decentralized finance. So initially started off as a researcher, initially worked as a contributor for Messari. That's where I met our amazing keynote speaker, Jennifer, was very foundational to my Web3 career. And I think if there's anything at that point was like the encouragement and support that she really gave me. Because being a young person in Web3 at that time, there were not really a lot of people. So, but her support was really very pivotal and encouraging. So, I think that's also like part of why we get to do the things we do now, encouraging others to grow in the space. So yeah, from research, I noticed that you know the best research actually have data, and then I began to develop a curiosity about on-chain data, and then took some time to. Initially, I tried learning Dune, but it didn't work because I didn't have like proper SQL background. It's not like these days when we have analytics stage that will drill you down and teach you well. So I had to first of all spend like 6 months learning Web2 data, then eventually transition back into Web3 data. And like, the last 2 3 years has been like an exciting journey that, I'm grateful for every day, to be able to do things that I love in a space that I love. And that's a beautiful thing for me. So thanks for
Awesome.
having me here.
Yeah, awesome. That's great. Good to have you. Okay, so because of our time, I'm gonna start with Joshua. Okay, because I see the things you do and the likes. So I want you to tell us in in 1 minute. Okay, how did your journey started as a blockchain data analyst and machine learning engineer?
All right. Good evening, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be listening to me from. My name is Joshua. Okay, just straight to the point. I kicked off blockchain data analytics and blockchain data engineering and blockchain data scientist role, like the journey plus machine learning engineer in analytics stages. Prior to joining analytics stages, I literally was yearning for knowledge in data, in the world of data. So I have some background foundation with SQL, Python, visualization tools, and the likes. But after joining core three, that's kind of when my eyes were open to blockchain data analytics, and it was so amazing. The experience was so amazing. So ever since then, I've been really, really, really passionate about building and growing aggressively, like that motivation to that until my voice is out there, I'm not no stopping. Until my work is seen on platforms, no stopping. Yeah, so that's kind of one of the things that literally helping me. Now, lately I actually completed one certification course basically in analytics studies for machine learning engineering, and like my oh my after completing this program, in fact the program didn't even have to finish. I already built something that was something world class that literally I shipped it, and someone literally was demanding to buy the project basically for something, a certain amount of money that threw me off balance. so so not to brag though, my experience so far with analysis stages has been so wonderful, and kudos to analysis stages for helping me on board, like on bringing me into this field. So yeah, so far so good. It has been awesome and amazing. Yeah,
Can
thank
you
you.
tell us like you know what are the opportunities that you've been able to harness as in this journey? Like so, are the opportunities rare? Are they scarce? Like how did you position yourself differently, and what are the opportunities you were able to harness?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. Let me just cut it short. To be honest, if I'm being honest, there's nothing good comes easy. Nothing good comes easy. So there's no way you'd there's literally nothing you do that comes easy. So strategically, especially I was really, really big on building. But I think at the point in time where Flipside, their dashboarding to like shut down, and I literally started moving my work to Dune. Prior to that, I literally did not have any single work on Dune. But I leveraged on that basically to to make a difference. And also I also strategically connected with Dune team members themselves. And that was like a very, very pivotal point of my career because I strategically used that basically to be in their faces. Shortly after that, and after building rigorously, like building strategically and with all the energy and sweat in me on Dune to do a lot of outstanding work on Dune, I was surprised that a couple of my works basically were published on Dune themselves, like shipping, like literally showcasing the work I did, sending it as an email to their subscribers, over 1 million of them. And stuff like that. Even getting endorsements from Jihoz, founder of Running Blockchain, co-founder of Running Blockchain. And in fact, I can't really begin to count. So some of these are literally some things basically that are literally achieved within this short time frame. And come to think of it, there's no way you actually get this form of visibility and you won't get a lot of clients reaching out to you like, we know what you can do. Come and help us do this. Like, so just in a nutshell, within this, like I literally have gained some of these how would I call it now? Recognitions basically and big wins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. For one, I've seen your journey, and it's quite an inspiring one. Thank you so much for sharing with us. So I want to bring up Christian now. So I'm going to ask, like, so Christian, you mentioned that your introduction, you've worked with Messari and some other gigs and jobs that you've done as a consultant. I'm going to ask, how did your journey started? In terms of because we have a large number of on-chain data analysts, machine learning engineers actually on this call waiting to learn what are the practical steps that they need to take, to get to build a career out of you know what they've learned, or in their journey as an on-chain data analyst, as a machine learning engineer in the blockchain space. So, what is your own journey, and how were you able to land your first job?
Okay. Yeah, I think that's really such a very deep question. But I think my journey is driven with curiosity, and then the I'll say curiosity and like consistency. So what I mean is this: initially, when I finished off my blockchain data training back in 2023, you know, I I got mentored by Sector, one of the earliest leading guys in the space. So, but I think one thing was maintaining the relationship with Sector. That was really very nice. I got to like just keep in touch and really showed my commitment to learn. So at that time, I mean, Slides Analytics then that sector work with had like a partnership with Nansen, and I also like get to like contribute to Nansen, and for me that was like a good thing. At least supporting and assisting my mentor was really nice. But on a personal level, I began to pursue my curiosity. So 2023, I enrolled like in a competition, optimism research competition for the Super Chain Eco. So the truth was I was literally very afraid because you could imagine a competition that is global and then maybe trying to build from Africa and Nigeria. Sometimes you feel like, oh, I can't really do this, and there are a lot of more talented guys. But I gave my best to it. The funny thing was I actually even submitted the last day, so my chances on my personal side was very low. But surprisingly, because I took that bet on myself, I matched up in the research competition, and like was literally I got like the best research for that. So that got me an opportunity with the super chain guys. But beyond that, initially the goal was assist them with research and all that. But because of my curiosity, I was like, I really understand this thing about super chain. So why not just delve deep and start like building data and dashboard? So on a personal level, I'll just go to Dune, try to aggregate the super chain data, connecting what's happening on base to optimism to Celo, all of those protocols under the super chain. So really like diving deep and studying it. The consistency to play in the super chain ecosystem got me like my first contractual role with Super Cheneco. So I became more like an internal data analyst, helping them build out data products for partner projects like Celo, Optimism and everything they have to do, right? So I think for me, like would be curiosity, finding a niche and going down the rabbit hole. Now, initially the space looks very crowded, but I think one thing that has helped me is being able to maybe find what every other person is not talking about and just keep showing up and doing it. I know it can really feel draining, when you're trying to still do layer twos and everybody, taking terminal is doing layer twos, Artemis is doing layer twos, and it seems as though your own layer two is being swallowed up, right? I would say like finding a niche ecosystem or niche sector and really going deep into it is something that will really help. And I think the third thing, like I mentioned, the first thing is curiosity, but second thing is, I mean, master relationships. If you notice, I'm not maybe super big on over posting, but I think one thing that I understand well is maintaining relationship, especially with those that I've worked with and past clients. So don't just treat your clients as like one-off deals, but try to like serve them. As Jennifer mentioned, always try to like serve 110%, giving like your very best in everything and maintaining it. And even those who has helped you on the journey, don't get to a point where you feel like you're reason past those that have helped you, because I can say that the truth is 80% of the roles and opportunities I got this year was really like referral for someone that really helped me. And if there's nothing I may not know so much, but one thing I know how to say thank you. And I feel like, and I mean, not just thank you as thank you. I know how to say thank you and do the job well. So know how to do your job well, but also learn how to be grateful for the people that like helped you on your journey, right? They'll keep bringing up. So first is curiosity. Find the topics that you're interested in. Pursue it genuinely. It may not look like it. One prime example of this is coffee. I don't know if you're in blockchain data and you don't know coffee yet, there's something wrong. Kofi is one of the great grandfathers of blockchain data, so make sure you search him up and follow him. So way back, Kofi, as far back as 2023, he always go deep into smart wallets and just kept building on that space. ERC 4337. No one really know a lot about ERC 4337 at that time, but he built on it consistently, and he got grant from Ethereum Foundation. I mean, now he's building at Coinbase, right? And for me, I think that's the strategy that I'll really take. Find an interesting topic that I align with and build in it for the long term. Then, of course, try to master relationships.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. I think if there is anything that was really really stressed on is building quality relationship and also maintaining those relationships. So thank you very much, Christian, for sharing that. Yeah, I'm gonna bring up Joel now. Joel, you have a very interesting background, like you said. You are a pharmacist. I would like to know how were you able to um, say, do I say balance things now and also land your first role. So in a nutshell, at what point did you realize that you are doing the right thing and you landed your first gig? Yeah, Joe.
Thank you very much. I think coming from the flip side space, anyone who knows flip side knew that it was a space where obviously the end game was to make money, but to make that money you had to get to work, build quality dashboard, write a thread, and ensure that that thread trends, in that sense, gets engagement. And for someone, I mentioned earlier that I'm a copywriter. I was a copywriter. I started as a copywriter. So writing, I know I grew up writing or sales letters back in the day. So writing compelling narratives from data uh, was something that I, I I I think I was very very good at, and I basically leveraged that to get those engagements. So what you do is basically write those threads and tag the team or the chain basically, and usually they find those threads valuable. Obviously, everybody loves hype in the on-chain data or in data space, in the Web3 space generally. So we saw that that worked. Myself and my friend who got into it, Optimus. So what we then did was we doubled down on building a personal brand. You know, our speaker Jennifer, she talked about building the public, and I think that's what got me this current role, because I think I just got a direct email from the Moonwell team, the governance team, to join their super delegate program. But how did this come to be? You know, one thing Flipside taught us was the training they gave us was, you know, getting any protocol or any chain, picking up a thread, picking up any insights, and then writing like a compelling thread from that the dashboard you've built. So even after Flipside went down, you know, I still pursued that. You know, I worked on the likes of Car Protocol, you know, wrote the threads, got a repost from the protocol, and so I continued that trend, kept building that personal brand, kept putting out quality work. I might not post very often, but whatever dashboard I build, I make sure that I put a lot of effort into the thread. It could go as far as listening to podcasts or interviews from the founder in a way that I can kind of stylishly tag the founder in the thread. It doesn't have to be, just tag them without any context. You can tag them by kind of putting a caption of what they said in that interview and tying it into your narrative. So just the way to get their attention, because it won't make any sense putting in all that for building a dashboard and not getting the attention that you'd actually want them to get. You do what you want to get for yourself. So basically, that was a trend. And for Momo Protocol, you know, I can remember I was at Christian's house, and I'd written the thread, I'd built the dashboard, I showed him, and I think I posted the thread while I was at his place. And you know, when I got home, after posting for like 2 hours, I didn't get any. There was nothing. You know, Christian kept messaging me, "How far more?" And how far more? I was like, nothing, nothing. Then the founder then dropped a comment and was like, "This guy gets it." And at the time, what did I? I just basically built the dashboard, and I went further to do more research about the protocol. Found that there was a particular governance proposal that was passed that affected or resulted in a spike in the staking rewards, and that was the foundation for the thread I wrote for the narrative essentially. And the founder commented, reposted, and the thread basically blew up. And you know, even I remember joining the governance call for that month, and the founder was still making reference to that particular thread because apparently that was a proposal that took a lot of a planning for them to do and eventually to implement it and to get the rewards they eventually got. So my point is, when it comes to getting your first role or basically getting any job or whatever contribution in the space, the main thing is building a personal brand. So you have to be very intentional about it. And also, I think one thing I've gotten to know now is niching down. It gives you more depth as against you just being all over the place, which is why I've decided to niche down into the lending and borrowing sector, where I'll basically, because and why I did this was, you know, my dream job at the time was Blockworks. I don't know if anyone knows Blockworks here. So I found out that I went through the guys that were recently hired, and I went to their Doom profile, and I saw that there was a consistency in the kind of dashboards they built. There was a particular guy who was hired, and I went to his Doom profile. All his dashboards were about decentralized exchanges. You know, so another guy, his entire dashboard on Doom was about stable coins. So basically, all of them were specialists in a particular sector, and I decided to, okay, why not, since I've already gotten a break with Monwell, which was a lending and borrowing protocol, why not dig down, dig deep, and become like a specialist in that space, have dashboards and the likes of Avi on the top protocols. And that way you can keep churning out insight, monthly reports, daily reports, quarterly reports on on your profile. And what are you doing essentially? You're building a personal brand, making people know that okay, you're a specialist in this particular niche, in this particular vertical. And I think that's the number one advice I'd give to anybody.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think you know the ending point where you mentioned having to have a niche, which which give you the edge that you're looking for. Yeah, that's a very salient point. Thank you very much. All right, so I'm going to take Tobichi now. Being that, of course, you started with Analytics Sage from day one, and I would like you to share with us, okay, um, what how your journey was, okay, in the beginning as an on-chain data analyst. Um, what was your first gig that you ever landed? Um, yeah, and then there are other questions I'm going to ask you, but let's take that one first. So just let us know what your journey was and what was your first gig as an on-chain data analyst.
Yeah, GM guys, great to be here. Great to listen to other experienced analysts, developers, and the likes. Um, Analytics Sage, right? My my first experience, my first entrance into blockchain data was obviously through Analytics Sages, right? At the time, we started with Flipside, so we were getting paid from our engagement. You know, the more retweets you had, the more likes you had, the higher chances you had to earn. But as some of you might have noticed, I gradually tilted towards June, even before Flipside sunsetted, right? Because I noticed that a lot of the rules that people were getting, a lot of the rules, gigs, analysts people were getting, they all wanted June analysts. So I was one of the first people or the first members of the committee to pivot to June. So I started bidding on June long before Flipside shut down. So it's been a great experience. I remember my first gig I got was directly from a Dune Discord channel. So one of the founders of or the members of Four ecosystem, they wanted a Dune dashboard. So I DM'd him, I showed him my Dune profile. He loved it. Then I got the gig at the time. So that was my very first gig, and that was like some sort of motivation for me to keep building, on Dune specifically. So after the guy paid me, I remember I just instantly drastically reduced posting on my flip side. I remember I only posted once or twice after then. Then towards the start of 2025, I fully went Dune mode, right? So I remember I started getting a lot of gigs, same from the June channel. I remember I was helping a lot of private traders. I think throughout 2024, most of my gigs came from not obviously Web3 projects, but they came from traders. Yeah, so I got a lot of gigs from that. I was helping them make better decisions on what to trade, what to buy. I remember there was this pump was fun hype at the time. So I helped them create queries for them. I remember there was this guy from there was this hype around, I can't remember the name now, AI agents, something like that at the beginning of the year. So I helped a particular project design ways to reward their their users, people that participated in the well, it's been so long. But yeah, that's basically how so that basically what formed my foundation around blockchain data analytics, thanks to analytics stages. But over the time, I remember I kept building stuff obviously on my Twitter. Then I started getting recognitions. I remember I started getting DMs from people, hey, I saw your work. Would you help us do this? Obviously, I agreed. So when you do something well, you obviously get referred. So I remember I was also getting a lot of referrals from those that I've done, work with. So it's been a great experience, and I've sort of, at least I've earned a lot from in the process. But yeah, I think that's just basically my foundation. Pretty much building and stuff. Although if you notice, I haven't posted much. I think I've in the last 6 months I probably posted 2 dashboards. That's because I have a lot of things I'm working on right now that hopefully next year they materialize. But yeah, that's pretty much how I got it. And like I said, referrals have been a big part of my journey. Referrals, and they only came from me building and posting stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. I think we're still going to revisit the some other points, right? But one of the
Yeah.
things I took out from your conversation is, your emphasis on, okay, you first built in public,
Yeah.
not only building in public, you figured out what are recruiters looking for, because that is very, very
Exactly.
important. A lot of things are moving blindly. You're not asking yourself what are recruiters looking for. So Tobishi has told us he looked at what recruiters are looking for, migrated into that ecosystem, started building within the ecosystem, got gigs, and that has been the results so far. Awesome. Yeah, back to Joshua, right? So I want us to share with us, okay, what are the what are the um what would be your advice for a newbie on-chain data analyst, okay, looking to land their first gig, okay, or their first job, right? What would be your advice to them when it comes to job hunting for the newbies?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. It's a very, very interesting question because there's no one side fits all strategy towards this question. Why I'm saying so is because my strategy may not work for someone else's, like someone else basically. It may not be exactly the same. But I think a similar strategy towards landing your first gig as a newbie or as someone that just got onboarded in blockchain data analytics is one, depth in knowledge. This cannot be overemphasized. It cannot be. We can't say this enough, basically, because it is what you know that will put food on your table. It is how you know how to implement your knowledge, basically, that will literally put food on your table. Why I'm saying this is because in this with the gigs, with the projects I've worked with the clients, I've literally provided services for with my skills. I've literally met a lot of clients coming to tell you or describe a specific thing they want. The way they will even bring it and present it to you, trust me, if you don't have depth, forget AI now. Yes, AI is a very, very key thing to helping you work. But if you don't have depth, I'm not sure you'll be able to like solve any kind of problem basically that presents itself. And when you have depth, basically, you'll be able to, like, when you have depth, you may not also need to niche down 100%. I think someone said something about niching down. It's very good to niche down. That is having depth in a specific field. But let's say you are a newbie now looking to get your first gig, and you are not saying you want to niche down to a specific aspect of Web3 that you find interesting. Let's say for me now, I love games. That's why I'm an OG right now on the running blockchain. I love games like GameFi, Web3 games, and the likes. And you want to niche down to blockchain analytics of Web3 games alone. How games make on-chain activity. You want to dive deep in analyzing this stuff, and you don't know how tackle analysis related to lending protocols, related to dexes, even in dexes, liquidity pools, some of those analytics that could throw you off balance, or you don't know, you don't really have any idea on how to analyze data that literally helps traders more profitable. Basically, maybe a trader comes and says he wants the so and so on chain, for you to literally give him this and this for him to make more money. You don't really have any idea. It's maybe it's I'm not sure you'll be able to land your first gig sef, because maybe say if you niche down to one specific field, the first opportunity that comes your way is something else. You may not be able to take it or get it. So my number one advice is depth in knowledge. When you have depth in knowledge, logically you'll be able to think. It's not every time that someone asks you something you want to go and enter ChatGPT. ChatGPT will mess with you if you don't know what you're doing. So number one is depth. Number two, I think I also talked about not niching down entirely. It's good to niche down, but kind of be jack of all trades. Touch everywhere. Touch every single aspect, but you can niche down to something you find more interesting. But let your hands, just kind of have an idea of everything. That's number one. Number 2 point is it's almost impossible to learn everything because the Web3 space is too broad and too diverse. But be the kind of person that even if it's just like a pin of information you have. Let's say you've never literally learned anything related to lending protocols, for example. But even if it's just a small knowledge of lending, just a very small knowledge you have, it's very important, because if an opportunity of learning protocols come, you at least be able to start thinking in that direction with the small knowledge you have. So my number 2 point is be the kind of person that when you've known something small, you can quickly and easily learn on the job while trying to solve your problem. So you should be somebody that is so smart enough that an opportunity comes, you don't really know it. You tell the person that you know it because you are confident in yourself. Basically, you present yourself like you know this. Now, I'm saying this is a reality. I'm saying this from experience. Now, not all the opportunities that were presented to me, basically, that I was so confident that I knew. Of course, let me speak broken small. I go whine them. I did very good for whining. So I go whine them first. They go they shock, say this guy na OG. But deep down, I don't really have depth in that field, but at least I have an idea. I know something. But while on this job, while doing this specific task, I will quickly learn. While I'm learning, I'm trying to solve this problem. Because why I'm making emphasis on this is that you want to land your first job in Web3. And you want to land your first job in Web3. That's one of the most challenging things. When the opportunity now comes to you, you don't know how to solve it. You're literally just telling yourself that someone no show, that kind of thing. Number three points, just to cut with you so that I'll be fast. Number 3 points is be big on while you're learning, just be building. Even if it's not a gig, personal projects, enriching your portfolio. You just keep building something, build something really relevant, showcase it online, strategically ping people that you want to see this thing, strategically keep showing up, keep posting just keep showing up on LinkedIn, on Twitter, everywhere, strategically. You can't be so unlucky that if you continue in this path, you won't get recognized. A typical example is when I was just building casually. I did a random dashboard personally on Dune for running games, and just did that casually, posted it. The dashboard was there. All of a sudden, I saw Dune reposted it. I saw that Dune also featured it on Dune Digest episode 17. I received it as an email, so a lot of users on Dune also received that same analysis as an email of running games. That dashboard literally exploded, literally a lot of running users. started getting, I literally was in their faces, basically. So that literally like opened doors to a lot of gigs, basically effortlessly on the running blockchain. So what I'm just trying to say is that you should continuously, just constantly keep showing up, keep posting yourself, keep doing your keep doing what you're doing, and just keep showing off, keep showing up. You don't have to know it 100%, you don't have to be so good 100%, but just keep showing up. That your lucky day is coming. It's really, really um it's kind of it's kind of understandable that recently, lately, the job market, basically, like to find jobs has not really been easy. So, and it's may even continue like that in the next, like I don't know how long to continue like this. So, but it's not really easy landing your first gig, especially when you just got onboarded. But it is only the strong, I mean, it's only the strongest basically that get going, basically. So I think that there are many others that I have in mind, but just because of time, I will stop
Yeah.
here. Basically, thank you very much.
I know you have a lot to say. Yeah, thank you so much for the little that you've shared so far. Yeah, so I'm gonna go to Christian, right? I want you to share with us, okay, what should someone who is looking to break into the on-chain data analyst space do differently, okay, to land opportunities like gigs, job, you know. Yeah, Christian.
Okay. I think I'll use the word consistency, not theory, but I think that's the truth. You know, a lot of people, a lot of us in Web3 space, we start out some things, we start out projects, we start out exploring protocols and many things, but we just give up easily. And it's more like you're just giving up before your breakthrough comes, right? So I think maybe one thing we can do differently is actually um, consistency. But then, why? Even if you are consistent on the wrong thing, how do you know what to be the right thing to be consistent on? I think the first thing, like I already established, be consistent, but the main thing is what should you be consistent on? I think the thing is understand where the industry is going and then build consistently for that. So, for instance, take a step back beyond the hustle and bustle of just trying to, get a gig and all of that. Just think critically. So where are we in the evolution of crypto as an industry? And then what do we expect to happen in the next few years? So if you look at, let's say, on the protocol side, you realize that stable coins and payments are becoming like the adoption is so massive, and it just feels as though every other blockchain on big company are going into payments and stable coins, right? That's something to look into. You also look into the trading side. Um, Predictions market is it just feels as though it's happening everywhere, but this is just the beginning. Real world asset tokenization is there and all of that. So when you understand where the industry is going, even in wallet infrastructure now, right? There's a gradual shift to smart wallets adoption and all of that. More protocols. People don't really like using seed phrase now. Personally, I would really prefer using a smart wallet account than a, a an EOA, and that's it. So you could just take a step back, especially with Christmas and all happening. Just really think critically: where is the industry going? What would be the mistake? Where are traditional finance people really focusing their attention on? When you understand where the big institutions are going, then you can build consistently for that space. The emphasis is on consistency, okay? Because you may not get the big break now, but because there's general, demand for this sector of the blockchain data space, with your consistency, and networking and showing up and giving your best percent, right, you will definitely be able to scale. So, what I would advise anyone to do differently is understand where the industry is going, do your research, and very importantly, make sure wherever they are going is something that you are curious about. Mix your findings with curiosity. So that even if no one pays you, you are genuinely interested to build, but make sure you build consistently. Personally, I mean, why I would say, because there are things that I've started and maybe I didn't follow through consistently. And then looking back, I'm like, ish, I would have just done this. Was it not? I mean, 2 days ago or something, I saw, a data dashboard by Messari for optimism. Guy, like just simple dashboard on stable coin, TVL, active addresses, simple thing that we can all build, right? But the conversation is consistency on that. So take steps back, understand where the industry is going, how big it's going to be, and then find the ones you are curious about and pursue it. So personally, maybe what I would do is find a space where I build long term to become like an authority in, but then find out that maybe in your spare time you can play around with. But the era of jumping from NFTs to gaming to, maybe it may feel very overwhelming at this point if you have a long term game. So what I would do differently is find a one area to focus on and do it consistently. But I mean, like Josh said, if you need to explore, sure explore, but know your mainstay and then build. And another thing that I also say is please make sure you master the fundamentals. Master the fundamentals. Oftentimes we are beaten in a rush. I don't know how many of us here that went to traditional university. So many of us went to university and then you study for 4 years and you came out nothing. You did not gain anything from your 4 years. And then you are coming to the crypto space, Web3, building a career in Web3, and then after 3 months or 6 months, you are shouting, my brother, calm down. It's not that, it's not, the Web3 is not taking you personal. So, for anyone that is starting out, right, what I would say is develop your personal learning curriculum. So, okay, for this 1 month, I want to study and master stable coins. Then build along that part. Oh, after stable coins, where is the next system? Okay, DEX is, then go to lending, go to, staking and build your knowledge stack up like that. Over time, you'll be so deep that you can handle anything that comes. And when you're learning consistently, then, like I said in the first place, find a space where you believe in for the long term and build consistently on that. I believe, and then of course the human side of networking. I believe that with these three things, curiosity in learning, and then consistency in building, and then networking, you'll be able to break in regardless of, whatever limitations that are coming.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. That was insightful. Joel, I'm going to ask you, this question. How would you um, how would you tell your younger self as an on-chain data analyst to build resilience, right? So how did you build resilience, and how were you able to um, how did you build resilience and how did that help you to land your first job? Yeah, or gig.
Um, I think firstly accepting that you're going to be frustrated because there's been several for instance, I think there was there was a project I worked on, and you know, there's a way Dune query frustrates you, where at a point it won't be a question of, oh, line 24 has an error. It will be a question of no result from query. At that point, there's nothing you can really do. So um, when it comes to resilience, I think it's just you being intentional about the outcome you want for yourself, because you're definitely going to face several obstacles. There are going to be days where you're going to work on a dashboard, put in all your efforts, write the thread or report, and then put it on Twitter and then tag everybody taggable. And there'll be zero likes, zero reposts, zero comments. But one thing you should know is that, one thing I've come to know, building online, or even getting any opportunity online, is that most of the opportunities you get are from people who actually didn't even engage with your post. I remember the days of LinkedIn. Most of the guys that will come into your DM for opportunities will be those that they didn't even drop a like or comment on that particular post. So building when it comes to resilience, having that mindset of an end goal where you want to go or the kind of outcome you want for yourself is the most important thing basically. Not looking at the engagement you get on your post or the validation you get from your work really, but just keep building, without set goal of okay, this is what I want, this is the outcome I want for myself. That is how you build resilience. And you know taking a cue also from people around you, because I think it's very easy to get lost in the wins you see from other people and not try to understand that a lot of work has actually been put in for them to get that particular win. You know, recently I've been there's been this unveiling of data analysis, or what's the word now? People usually are anonymous in Web3. Then when you see them, you're like, oh, okay, um, this is this person. And when you dig deep, you see that a lot of work has gone into um, where they are currently, and there's obviously a lot of resilience was have been put in for them to achieve that. So when it comes to resilience, just having that, knowing the outcome you want for yourself and pursuing it resiliently, and not minding the obstacles, because nothing good comes easy. Like I think Joshua said earlier. So yeah, that's what I'll say.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing. Okay, so lastly, I'm going to, ask Tobichi, just the, so this time around, I want to answer a question around, um, did you at any point experience, imposter syndrome, where you feel you are not good enough for certain things? That's one. And two, I remember there was a time you did an hackathon, I think over $2,000 or $3,000. So I want you to share with us, right? Um, did you ever experience, imposter syndrome? How did you overcome it? And also, two, you know, did you ever thought you would win an hackathon, right? And when did your mind start opening up to doing hackathons? Because I know after you won the first hackathon, you started doing more and more hackathons. So yeah, you have the floor.
Yeah, imposter syndrome, man. Even to today, like I still experience that particular, that particular syndrome. You get what I mean? Like, I remember when my very first bounty I did, I think it was by Life 5. Yeah, there was this flip side dashboard I did, so I didn't win. So that sort of like dampened my morale, right, at the point in time because I didn't win. But I told myself that it's better for me to post. What's the word now? It's better for me to post even if it's rubbish and get corrected, and not post at all. If you get what I mean. In that sense, like pretty much post your work and get corrected than you keeping your work to yourself and feel okay, it's not good enough. So I think, but even to now, maybe because I'm sort of a perfectionist in that sense that maybe that's why I don't do too much dashboard. That before I do a particular dashboard, I have to make sure that okay, this thing I'm doing must be better than what I've done before. You get, because I don't like repeating metrics or repeating dashboard. Like okay, I did something. You get what I mean? So I like like doing it the way that okay, every dashboard I do and post must be better than what I've done before. So that okay, I'm learning something new. You get what I mean? But yeah, imposter syndrome is a big thing in the space. Like even the last dashboard I did, because that dashboard took me about 1 month to build. I kept on correcting and correcting and correcting and correcting. Like I remember there was this particular query I was trying to calculate um LP profitability. Basically, I was trying to combine realized profit and loss and unrealized profit and loss. So basically measure them into overall profit and loss. So that particular query took me about 2 days to perfect. But yeah, that's basically what a plus syndrome can do. But like I said, I don't these days I don't mind anymore. I post my work. If you correct me, I'll take my correction. But yeah, and that's how you keep learning. Than you keeping your work to yourself, keeping your project to yourself. I'm not posting. At the end of the day, you are doing yourself danger because in the learning process, you make mistakes. If you decide not to post, you are skipping that mistake you want to, that mistake you feel you're avoiding will later catch up with you in the future, right? But yeah, my love for hackathons pretty much came. um, I just saw it like I saw it as a learning experience and obviously as a way to earn money for myself. I remember I participated in about 3 hackathons this year, right? Two from Dawn, then one from Helium Solana hackathon. Yeah. From the Dawn hackathon bounties, I remember I won one. I didn't win the other one, but Solana I came third. So hackathons are pretty much a very good ways to a very good avenue for analysts to earn in the space. But I took my lesson from the bounty I failed to do, which was the Li-Fi bounty last year. I made sure that okay, whatever they told us, whatever that was outlined for us to analyze, make sure you go beyond that. Don't pretty much stay on that same level. For example, if you are given some metrics to analyze, try to go deeper and say, okay, why this, why that, why this, that kind of stuff. So you stand more chance winning a bounty, right? When you go over and above to impress them than focusing on the metrics you are seeing there. Try to, go beyond what they ask. That's what helped me in my turn bounty. For my Solana bounty, we are pretty much not giving much metrics. So I remember for the Solana bounce, we were told to like, well, it was more like freestyle basically. Basically, just put up what you have in your head. So it was somewhat easier for me to do because we are not really confined to a particular, metric to analyze. So it was pretty much like freestyle. So I remember I came third in that bounce, but it's been all good from there. I think there was a bounty that I just found out that happened. I think Zcash did a bounty. I missed that. Would have been fun for me to hop on that, but yeah, bounties are very good. You can easily make your first $2K from bounties. No jokes. You can make your first $1K from bounties. I think the highest it was Zcash. I think Zcash did one of $100K. I'm not too sure. But yeah, hopefully next year we get more hackathons and one bounties, and I'll try to also, participate. But at the end of the day, it's still or it will always be a learning process for analysts at the end. So even if you don't win, try just make sure that okay, you put in your best and you went over and above. You get what I mean? So that's just pretty much it. That's pretty much it.
Awesome. I mean, thank you very, very much. And guys, you add that, right? You add that leverage on bounties, hackathon to get started. He is a testament, right? He has won several bounties, hackathons, and the like. So thank you very much, Joel. Joshua, Christian, and Tobeshi for joining us. This has been a very, very interesting knowledge sharing session for everyone listening and even for ourselves here. Thank you very much for joining us. We have come to the end of this panel session, and I'm going to hand over the mic back to Onyobasi. All right. Thank you very much, our panelists, guys.
Okay. What wonderful session. Thank you so much, sir, for that. Um,
You can share
I
your
don't know.
screen, Onyobasi. You can share your screen.
Okay. So we'll just be taking at most 2 questions.
Yeah. So, guys, if you have any question, please drop it in the chat box. Okay, over to you, Oyobasi, while I take my leave.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for that. Okay, so if you have any questions, the panelists are open to any questions. So in the absence of any other questions, we will be moving forward with the next thing on the agenda. Thank you so much to Mr. Joel, Mr. Tobichi, Mr. Christian, and Mr. Joshua. Okay, so let's do a little exercise to our audience. Kindly share your key lesson from the session today across your socials, either on X, LinkedIn, Instagram, using the hashtag Career Acceleration 2025 and also the hashtag Day One. Don't forget to tag us, Sages Lab, to the post that you've made. So drop a key lesson that you've taken from the session tonight. We'll be watching out for your tags. Okay, awesome. So a huge thank you once again to our panelists for the raw, real stories, and of course, to our founder for leading that critical discussion. Guys, I believe that's a wrap for our day one. You now have strategic blueprints and living proof from seasoned professionals in their various aspects, right? In their various fields. Okay, so just to be clear, we'll be using this opportunity to, of course, announce our learning programs under analytics stages. There is the Become a Blockchain Data Analyst course, where we teach analysts how to make use of SQL on Dune, right, to extract and, of course, find meaningful insights from the data they extract. So this particular learning path will be starting on the 2nd of February next year. Registration closes January 30th next year. So do well to enroll if you are interested. There's also the Python learning path where our analyst learns how to analyze data using Python. Okay. Of course, meet Sage Labs, our flagship organization. So Sage Labs is a blockchain research and development hub building on-chain data-driven solution, right? And the subsidiaries under Sage's Lab are IntelliSages, Fluxo, and Analytics Sages, right? I believe majority of us are familiar with Analytics Sages and IntelliSages. Fluxo was launched recently this week, and Fluxo is a private intelligence agent that provides autonomous private intelligence which understands the market and, of course, executes high value strategy without information leakages. So its core focus is in the DeFi system. Okay. Then we have Analytics Sages. Analytics Sages is our learning organization where we teach individuals how to go from beginner to, of course, job ready analysts. And our platform is designed for both beginners, of course, and seasoned professionals, providing a comprehensive and engaging learning experiences that bridges the gap between theoretical principles and practical applications. So, guys, do well to follow us across these wonderful organizations. Of course, this career day is hosted by our flagship organization, Sages Lab. So don't forget to give us a follow on Twitter. Don't forget to also give us a follow at IntelliSages, Fluxo, and Analytic Sages. So IntelliSages, right, is an organization that delivers blockchain data intelligence, also offers consulting and advisory services to accelerate Web3 adoption across Africa, right? So, of course, you can as well check us out on Substack. We have various article reports there, and we've carried out flagship analysis around Dune projects that have been featured by IntelliSages. So you can as well check us out on Substack, guys. Next up, we have our closing recap and key takeaways. So, guys, a few takeaways from me, right, from what I gained from today's session. Of course, from the session hosted by Ms. Jennifer, she encouraged us to build in public, learn, be consistent, of course, and don't be afraid to prefer your personal opinions regarding certain hot topics in this space, of course, after comprehensive research, right? You don't want to go and be offering your personal opinion on something you've not researched about. Okay, so from the panel session, we got a few points where panelists encouraged us to have a niche. The likes of Mr. Joshua said that it's not, don't be afraid, right, to know a little bit about everything. Of course, there is still niching down to a few things here and there. So there is figure out by asking what recruiters are looking for. So you need to understand what recruiters are looking for. It allows you to be able to know how to, of course, position yourself very well in the ecosystem. So we have come to the end of today's session. Tomorrow is day 2, where we will be having the theme showcasing your skills. We would be tackling on building the portfolio that gets you hired. So, guys, be present, be here. Thank you so much for your phenomenal energy. Get some rest, and we build again tomorrow. I'm Onyi Obazi. This has been day 1 of the Sages Lab Career Program. We are out. Thank you guys so much.